Well, today I'd like to introduce you all to Evelia from Positive Approach Dog Training. And I brought Evelia on the call today to share a little bit about her experience, working with myself. Now, can you give the viewers a little bit of a background of, what inspired you or what kind of pulled you into the industry in and of itself?
Since I was a child, I've always loved animals like every other child. My sister and I used to train our dog to do movies. We thought that we were going to be, prep dogs for movies. My mom would bring us to the local aquarium and zoo. That was kind of our vacation fun thing to do. And it really stuck with me watching the trainers work with the animals that were there. That was just how I connected with animals, and I was obsessed with the D in the encyclopedia for dolphin and dog, and the H for horse. I had the encyclopedia with me, and I was
Oh,
reading and
okay.
reading about that. And then as I got older, I was looking for another place to volunteer. And there was a group dealing with kids that were underserved as well as behavior challenges, and they were working with therapy dogs. So I decided to volunteer and just the bond that the dogs and the children had, right? I always had that bond with the zoo and the aquarium. These children didn't have the opportunity to see those animals. But having therapy dogs come into their programs, and seeing how they started talking to the dogs, and even though they wanted to nothing to do with us as people, they just connected and opened up. And I just watched that, and it was like, yes, I want to do this. I want to get more into the dog world so I can have more hands-on with the people in that aspect.
Oh, that's awesome. So what was your role in that situation to begin with?
So at first it was a handler of the dog itself. So all the dogs were
Okay.
certified therapy dogs, and each volunteer had a dog and a student, essentially we'll call them students. And we're supposed to hold the dog, and like the students weren't supposed to hold the leash by themselves, essentially. So we were able to do that and trying to just be their buddy. It's kind of like a big sister brother program in
Right.
concept, and that. So we went to walk through went to hikes. We visited senior centers, and that also the kids would start working with their dogs, showing them how to train them. They were already trained, but right, having the kids do the things was fun. They got into it very excited, and I remember bringing those kids who most of them didn't have families to the senior home to present the seniors with their dog. And
Oh,
everyone was so happy, right? The seniors were excited to have visitors. The kids were excited to show them their dogs. And these were kids that didn't want to talk to us, were annoyed they were even there. I remember this one kid had a little Bichon, and he was so upset that he had this little dog. And at the end, he was right. They were so cute together, and he loved he loved this dog. So that was kind of like, yeah, that's how I got into that in my role in that position. And I started then volunteering, doing more dog handling, and kind of took off from there.
yeah, that's awesome. I also spent some time, about 4.5 years, doing pet therapy at, um, you know, extended living centers and developmentally challenged or delayed. That's what they called it at the time, anyways, wards of schools and stuff like that. And had similar experience where it's just amazing the transition that some
Mhm.
of these people went through just by, presenting a friendly dog to them, right? And you're like, oh,
Mhm.
this is so heartwarming. So it's super sweet, and I appreciate you sharing that. I guess, if you can share a little bit about, how or why we first connected, if you recall.
I don't remember how. I just know, I assume you requested me on Facebook because we were friends one day. And I would see your posts and I would watch them occasionally and I would comment because you had interesting posts and things like that. So I think we did that for a little while, just kind of commenting and sharing. And then one day you did a post on Facebook. I had just quit my full-time job because we decided to try this full-time after multiple years. It was kind of like a big jump for me. I've never really had the same job forever. But I decided I wanted to try it. So one of your posts that you did or videos, it made me decide to comment, right? Comment for more information. And then that's the first time we actually talked one-on-one.
Okay. So then how were things before we started working together? Like, was that right on the transition where you quit your job or
It was no, I think I quit in May or June, and then we connected in November. So during that
okay.
time gap is right. The calling is that I was kind of floundering the sense of organizing. It was easy to do this part time. Like it was easy. I didn't have to rely on it necessarily for income. I wasn't as busy because I scheduled a small gap of time, and this was for, I don't want to say for fun, but for fun, right? This was a hobby or a side gig. So once I became very busy, I decided to give it a whirl because this is what I enjoy doing it. And then I felt a little bit lost. Right? I didn't have a formal business class. I didn't work off of people. I didn't stem off necessarily of another group. Right? I just kind of tried it on my own. Um, so I felt a little bit lost and confused. And I think one of your videos, I can't remember which one it was, kind of sat with me. It's like, okay, I need to see, I need to see what he's talking about. I need help.
Well,
But,
it is such a big transition from part-time to full-time, and I went through the same thing a number of years ago. And you don't realize you got all these ideas, and then when push comes to shove, and you're like, I don't have business like cl enough clients to work with, and I don't know how to generate clients beyond people referring to me. And you're just like, I'm just like sitting on my hands, waiting, hoping someone's going to call, and then I might be a little bit like that. Speaking from my own experience, not yours.
Mhm.
I might come across as a little bit desperate when I get a call because I'm really eager to get them, hired because I got not as much going on because essentially I opened up 70% of my time to do this, but I don't have any skills necessarily or strategies to, promote myself because I haven't had to. I've always had a full-time gig and this was just part-time, so I couldn't accommodate more business. So it's an interesting space to be in that transition from, being part-time to full-time. What would you say, like where things are at now with the business that you kind of, spent some time, 3 or 4 months, within my program? Like what would you say, I guess the ultimate result has been for that for you?
I definitely feel more put together. Like what you said, I had a lot of ideas, a lot of things, but I couldn't figure out how to focus or what was more important for the task at hand, essentially. So when working with you, I was able to organize my thoughts, my ideas, create checklists, daily tasks, and some of the things I thought were important. Not that they're not, but yes, they're not in the sense of trying to get new leads and building relationships. So I've definitely gotten much better at building relationships and organizing my days. I feel much better sitting at a computer and not just kind of like staring at Facebook because that's what I felt like I was doing, right? Just staring and getting overwhelmed by all the things I had to do. So I feel more organized. I feel more confident. Especially talking to the other trainers in the group, right? Being able to have that like have that support from the community, you and the other trainers just having that there.
Yeah, definitely. It is challenging because it's pretty simple to get overwhelmed because there's so much information coming from so many different angles. It's just like you have I had lots of ideas and you write them down or you just think about them and then you don't do any of it. Because there's so many things, well, I don't know which one to start with. It's kind of like that analysis paralysis, where it's like, oh, I just need to figure it out. And then you figure it, it's 3 months later, and you're like, I haven't moved forward with any of these things, and I'm not where I want to be. And then it's like trying to break it down into this isn't that important. We'll push it to next month or whenever. This is more important because it affects what you're doing today and tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, you want more business. Well, doing these other things is not going to get you more business in the next 2 weeks. And then it just becomes a little bit simpler to sift through all the possibilities and ideas and not get bogged down and overwhelmed.
Mhm.
So, were there any unexpected benefits from the course that you took that maybe you didn't anticipate, or, what kind of sticks out for you about it?
I don't know if it was unexpected benefits. I definitely got a lot. I said, I'm gonna miss you, and I do want to look at your other programs because it's just having that support of the support from you, was really helpful. So I think, I don't know if necessarily unexpected, but I definitely got what I wanted for it, and I probably can continue doing it, right? There's definitely a lot of things that I'm gonna take with me that I'm gonna continue doing. I feel more organized and confident. And no, I really enjoyed the program and talking with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess they don't have to be unexpected benefits, but they can just be benefits too. So no worries whatsoever.
No, I mean, yeah, because I had a lot of the initial ideas. I just couldn't organize it. And then even after that, just talking to you and having someone to like bounce ideas off of, there was a lot of times I'm like, oh, that's so simple. Like, why not do that? Right. Even, And some things I didn't want to do as far as my comfort level, right? So even the talking to people on Facebook and working on their reels, right? But pushing me out of my comfort level as well really helped, right? Really helped with that aspect and like, that marketing part itself. So that, just kind of pushing me a little bit enough, enough to like motivate me and not enough to make me feel stressed, right? Like there's a difference between that. So I felt motivated. I did a lot of things that were outside of my comfort level, talking to other we talked about vet hospitals and daycares and things like that. So doing those kind of things that was you know, outside of my norm.
Yeah, and simple premise is when we do different things, we get different results, right? And sometimes
Mhm.
we get in our comfort path, myself personally too. And then it's like, well, why can't we get different results? Well, because we're doing the same things that got us to where we're at. If we want to go to the next level, we're probably going to have to adjust our behavior and do some things that aren't necessarily in our regular routine. And then once you do that, you're like, oh, okay, well, people are starting to see me differently because I'm presenting myself differently.
I've
So,
gotten even for my social media change, I was worried about making it too dog heavy and too I thought, for a second, too salesy, and that's what I was really worried about. But I have a lot of people outside in the real world
yeah,
that complimented, right? Even yesterday, someone was like, I love the videos that you did. And I was like, oh, thank you. And the person didn't even have a dog, right? Like they
yeah,
just were like, I love watching your videos. So I'm like, oh, this is all working. This is great. Derek is right. I need to have a t-shirt that says Team Derek. It was
yeah. Some of my team had created me a shirt that said "Do the thing" because I guess I was in a season where I do say that a lot because they had like similar experiences where always trying to push us out of our comfort zones. I'm like, I'm not. This is optional. You don't have to do anything. But if you want to continue to grow at the pace that we have been, you're gonna have to do some things that might make you uncomfortable. So then I would just say, like, to simplify everything, I'm like, just do the thing. Like, get out of your own way. I'm like, fine. And then they do it, and then they get the positive result to a point where they made me a shirt that said it was black shirt with green, do the thing, and then in like Derek Snow. And I was like, it was really sweet and funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's how I want to wear a Derek t-shirt.
Do the thing. Well, and
But
that's,
yeah.
I mean, sometimes just simplifying like that pushes away some of the limitations and stories that we have ourselves of what might happen. And because I don't know, I think some of maybe benefits of myself being a coach is that I think I've gone through like so many of the same things that all my students have, from mindset challenges and concerns and fears and doubts to literally like this part of the business, this thing happened, that it really just gives that perspective of I'm right there with you. I've been through it. I'm just a few
Mhm.
steps ahead on the path, so I know what's coming. So heads up, this is what we need to expect. And kind of like a tour guide, I like to phrase it as. So I think that is beneficial from a standpoint of learning because it's always easier to learn from someone who's been where you're at versus someone
Mhm.
who's heard about where you're at.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it made everything more comfortable and to know, right, that you always feel at one point, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why is this not working? So knowing that you had the same pathway it is a huge help. I've had other activities that you mentioned earlier, other doctors that you can tell I felt like they were reading from a book, right? So it was like lack of experience that they had or not be able to relate. So it made it hard to work with, these are other professions, right? It made it hard to be a patient with these people, especially for something new, if you felt like they weren't confident in what they were saying, right? They were reading from their book because they're new at it. So I didn't get that vibe from you. Like I felt like you did it and it felt like you did it. So even, like
Yeah.
even if it was a fake it till you make it, it was great. Like I felt like I could trust you and I've never steered wrong, essentially. Even if I was uncomfortable and I sweat in front of my computer as I was trying to do one of your tasks, right? I was very proud of myself after, and then super grateful for the advice.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely been on the front lines, so I hear that. If someone's on the fence about, considering working with me in any kind of capacity, is there anything you might share with them?
And my biggest thing from the being on the fence was right the financial aspect originally. So we decided to go for it, and I think generally even for one session that it was so worth it. for the first session. Like I'm looking forward to looking at your other programs as well. That's how excited I am about working with you. So even from that aspect, it is definitely worth going for it. You'll get your money's worth in the advice and connections and and just confidence boosting from that, right? Like it was definitely worth doing that. I'm super grateful and happy that I did.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I am too. So it's been a great ride. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today and sharing some of your experience with the viewers.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great talking to you.
Awesome.